Welcome to the non-insurance risk officer panel. Congratulations to my three esteemed colleagues on your promotion for at least the next 1 hour. I will let each of them introduce themselves here briefly, but to start, I'm Chris Murphy from Holmes Murphy. The name is just a coincidence. I usually get that out of the way early. People are wondering, what's it like with your name on the sign? I was like, it's not bad, but it's no familial relationship whatsoever. But we are here to talk about risks in our various middle market type businesses. And so I have been doing insurance risk management since 2001 when I was a graduate of Iowa State University with an engineering degree. No intentions of really joining the insurance industry like many of you probably in the room. Met with somebody who was doing work in insurance risk management, and I thought that sounds pretty cool to go to a variety of different businesses like these three operate here, understand the risks that they face in their business, help them control those risks. At the time I was in the carrier side of the marketplace, and every claim prevented is a win-win for pretty much the entire insurance mechanism. So I've recently made a move into a more of a technology and AI automation type role, more of an operational risk focus, but for the last 23 and a half years, I was working with people like Derek, Eva, and Ian on more of the insurable types of risks. So that's what we're gonna kind of unpack today. And without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to first Eva. You're just gonna introduce yourself and just a little bit about the context of your company. So what do you do in your business? Because that'll kind of inform the conversation as far as what risks you're facing, how are you controlling and thinking about those. So Eva, take it away.
Thank you. This is pretty loud. I'm Eva Sandoval, and I lead risk management for Hy-Vee Inc. And most of you, I'm pretty sure you have heard of Hy-Vee Inc., but you're more than just a retail grocery store. We are as well in the healthy side of our customers. And as you may know, there is a lot of risk involved in foot traffic. You know, when you have a lot of feet coming into the stores, that's just the responsibility there, alongside with all the employees, and it's just, there's plenty to keep me busy there.
Thank you, Eva. Derek?
Yes, good afternoon. Derek Boyd. I get the opportunity to lead our environmental health and safety and risk management for Greenheck Fan Corporation. We're basically a company that is privately held out of Wisconsin, but we are also all around the world. About 76 years in the making, and we simply build and manufacture anything that moves air. So whether it's moving air through a fan or an exhaust system in a laboratory, whether it's exhausting over top of a kitchen or ventilation hood, whether it's tempering air, so heating, ventilating, and air conditioning is what we do all in the commercial side of the business. Been there for about 5 years. Like Chris, I've kind of been in risk management and safety since the late 90s, and really got involved in risk management and safety by growing up in the fire department, became a firefighter, an EMT, hazmat responder, and kind of just recognized calculated risk-taking as something I was very interested in, and that really is what led me into doing what I've been doing for the past 25 years.
How's that worked out for you?
Very well.
Yeah, and Eva and Derek didn't indicate this, but all of us on this panel have some connection. Although they're on the private side of industry now, they've all been either part of the carrier or broker relationship as well. So Ian, tell them a little bit about what you do now and for who.
Yep, I'm Ian Happ. I work for Kent Corporation down in Muscatine, Iowa. We have 2 large alcohol plants, but also are in the animal nutrition space throughout the Midwest and Northeast. We also have some dry blending food groups in different parts of the country as well. And then we actually make a corn-based cat litter in this country and a paper-based cat litter in Australia and the UK. To Chris's point, I grew up in the insurance brokerage side. I went to St. Ambrose University, and the first person who offered me a job was a Cottingham and Butler in Dubuque, Iowa. I worked there for 4 years, and then 8 years actually at Holmes Murphy, working on the brokerage side as well before taking this position 10 years ago.
Yeah, wonderful. So we have a wide spectrum of the types of businesses that we're looking at here today, but I'm curious from each of you, what are the 1 or 2 biggest risks that you think about in your business? And then we'll see if there's overlap, even despite the differences in your operations. Are there some common risks that we're all facing across the industry and some that are kind of more nuanced to your type of business? So Ian, do you want to kind of start off with, what are you thinking about over at Kent Corporation?
People. People are always the biggest risk for a variety of reasons, what they choose to do or not do in their job every day, and how we help guide that. But specifically for us right now, I would say just this retirement wave that's hitting a little bit, because in this manufacturing space, we have a lot of older feed mills and our alcohol plants. There's the institutional knowledge we're losing all the time as those people go away. And how do we prep for that, backfill that? It's not that we can't teach others to do it, but you lose a lot of the why we've done these things this way for this long for a company that's been around 90 years. So we just have to be very intentional. We work with our HR group on this type of project and get report outs at least quarterly on how they're doing with this and planning for this, and just making sure we all stay aware and cognizant.
So I've been in insurance almost 24 years. I have yet to see the policy that insures you from not being able to find enough of the right people. So this is more of one of those operational type risks that you're focused on, but I think that's really good that you have an intentional way about it and have metrics and meetings around, are you getting enough of the right people to continue Kent Corporation being the solid business that we all know it is? So wonderful. Eva, what's nagging you over at Hy-Vee?
Everything.
Oh no.
Everything. It's you mentioned, I do have I come from a different background in insurance and just being able to see the whole cycle. But to comment to Ian's, we do have an aging workforce. That is a huge problem. How do we share the knowledge? How do we not allow people to retire without sharing the wealth, right? And then in my industry, it's just, we have that problem there, the operational side, and then we have, the other risk to look at. Our business drives on foot traffic. When you have foot traffic and demand more foot traffic, you need employees. So it's people. So those are that's what keeps me awake at night.
You have thousands of tires driving the interstates. It's a concern as well. So you think of Hy-Vee, I walk into a Hy-Vee, but there's so much that goes on behind the scenes or overnights that's going on at your warehousing operations and vehicle traffic as well. Perhaps we'll unpack some of those in some of our later discussion. Derek?
Yeah, at the risk of being an absolute broken record, I hope you're seeing that skilled labor shortage is a problem no matter what manufacturing, what company that you come across, and I think that we would all mostly agree with that. Just kind of expanding a little bit on what has already been said, in many of our manufacturing locations, you're kind of borrowing and stealing from any competitors or anyone else that is just battling for that skilled labor shortage in that geographic footprint. So one of the things that we're doing to help combat that is we're excited to expand into Knoxville, Tennessee, and really creating a whole new footprint, and a very well thought out footprint for an entire campus for our company. Because many of the places where we're at today, where our larger footprints are in Wisconsin, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and west of Charlotte, North Carolina, we recognize that the skilled labor shortage isn't something that's going to get any better. So we had to go out and find where are other communities we can continue to put in manufacturing facilities that have labor. And then we partner with those local community colleges, local high schools, and invest in those programs to raise up skilled labor to work for us in Greenheck. So the skilled labor issue is definitely one of the hot topics for us that we're dealing with.
Okay, well, that's a great panel when everybody has the same answer, but it doesn't lead to.
Well, I have something additional.
Yeah, go for it, Eva.
So something different and just because I went to a different forum a couple of weeks ago, and something just, true risk related and nuclear verdicts, shock defense verdicts. Those also keep me awake because then you take something that was not a common stance before, and it was very defendable and very, you're going to pay for what it's owed. And now there's been a stance that, no, it turns the wheels on everything. And so it gets me going and spending. It's like, well, what did I miss? What can I put in place? What policies do I need to revamp, revisit? Who do I need to convince to have understand how this works? And a lot of the things would be to explain to our people on the front lines how these verdicts work. Is this that, do I prep them to explain to them how juries are selected? It just opens a whole idea of everything, like how but I got to start tiny because there is a huge problem that I have to fix there. But I don't know, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Keeps me awake too.
Yeah, as well. I mean, we're hearing about it when I was on the carrier side of the business. I think that was a newer term, maybe like 5 years ago or so, which kind of leads into our next question. But we were starting to hear about these terms, nuclear verdicts and social inflation, and now third-party litigation finance, and all of the things we were worried about. We worry about today. They were there, but they weren't as pronounced as they are right now. So going into the next question, what do you worry about today that was maybe a little bit different than some of the things that you worried about 5 years ago? So is there anything that's emerging? Certainly the people topic, we've kind of covered that one. Anything else besides, I can't find the people like I used to be able to find? Anything else in your business is kind of new on the radar? And Derek, you want to start with that one?
Sure. So I'll answer your question, but I'm going to ask a question of the audience first. Who here enjoys all the effort it takes for multi-factor authentication, for receiving text numbers back to yourself, to use voice authorization, which can be stolen really easily? Who enjoys all of that just to do our daily jobs? I'm sure that we're all going to raise our hands right now.
I see no hands.
Not one hand in the audience.
For those online, yeah.
So from my perspective, as our organization and any organization continues to evolve and embrace technology, my perspective, cybersecurity, if you want to use that as just the main umbrella. But when it comes down to it, with the Internet of Things and with manufacturing, in our case, becoming very well connected and utilizing a lot of technology and advancements in automation and manufacturing, cybersecurity is one of the top issues for my company that we wrestle with. I know one of my daughters is going to school just this week. I don't know if any of you have kids in school. I believe it was the eastern side of AWS went down or something like that. I don't know all the details. And literally the school classes were shut down. We really, as a nation, need to recognize, as AI continues to be really critical, how is that going to impact us to just be able to make our widget, whatever that widget is. So from our perspective, the Internet of Things is a really big deal, and it's one of our biggest risks to wrap our heads around.
Agree. Eva, any other takes?
I'm going to take it a step back and just focus on one piece of the issue that I'm dealing with right now with the company, which is work comp. And with work comp comes medical. There aren't enough, probably going to come out very wrong, but finding enough medical professionals out there with integrity. And that is becoming a huge problem in work comp. And head injuries are another big problem. So it's just everything that falls behind that, that's how do I control that as well? I don't know, because that's a whole different industry that I can't take on.
So none of you can find enough people, but there's also the medical system can't find enough people either. It just seems like this is spiraling out of control. This would be something that we all should maybe fix together. All right, Ian, any other ideas regards to new and emerging risks in your business?
They took my two, right off the bat. I was going to say Internet of Things, and then work comp keeps me up all the time. But for different reasons, I'll bring it back to my first answer to the people, is we lose some of, not to be a broken record, we lose some of our older generation. We lose our culture. And so when we're fairly proud of our culture, well, that also leads to a higher turnover rate. And that's where we get into these work comp claims, right? So we see this, we have all the numbers to support it, both industry and sadly, we have enough of it of our own that we see in those first 90 days is when we have a lot of those injuries that happen, and the cost of the turnover of employees, that churn at the bottom that we talk about sometimes is just really tough on keeping expenses down across the board. It's happening more and faster than it ever was before. When I started at this company, the average tenure was 14 years at that point, and now I believe it's under double digits.
Chris, I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead, Derek, please.
To elaborate on 5-10 years ago, I don't believe psychological safety or people's well-beings of their mental health was something that was commonly talked about as a risk management attribute that needs to have some attention. And I think that we've turned the corner on that, I believe, at least from my perspective, in a very positive way of recognizing that that is real. It's a real risk. People get burnt out. They get exhausted. They get stressed out from too much change fatigue. And that is a matter that I think, from my perspective, it's a positive that we have turned that corner on and recognizing that, and it's not something that should be ashamed of, to be addressed appropriately, to have the right resources and tools and be part of wellness benefits in companies. And I think that's another one that comes to my mind, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for that. I have a couple of colleagues that serve on various organizations around this idea of total worker health and coming not just the physical side, but the mental side as well, and kind of the bridge between the employee benefits and the work comp. And if we just take care of the whole person, a lot of the problems seem to kind of disappear, or at least they're not as severe as they possibly could have been.
Well, we've also some companies have taken the approach of rewarding taking care of your whole body as a whole, There, some maybe a lot of you who see this, but there's rewards for you. You did a meditation session, great for you. We'll get points. It's you have the ownership to say I did it, but not do it, or do it and you did it. But we are incentivizing you to take care of your own well-being. So we are slowly. I think at least for us, we are tackling that.
And I think the companies that tackle that well are going to help solve the lack of empathy. You're going to attract the right type of person because you show you're an organization that cares about people. You're not just running a business, you care about people. You need to get the right people in your doors to serve your clients and customers. All right, any other thoughts before we move on, kind of today's risk landscape and what risk looks like in your business and how you're dealing with it? All right, our next theme is, what does risk management look like in your business? So all of your business became big. You're big businesses. You're not huge businesses. You're big businesses, each of the people on this panel, but you didn't start as a big business. So risk management has probably grown from it was one of the hats they wore for a few hours a day, into what does it look like now? So Eva, how is risk management structured at Hy-Vee?
That's a great question. So right now at Hy-Vee Risk Management, my task is to reimagine what risk management looks like at Hy-Vee. And what I foresee the future of risk management at Hy-Vee is to have analytics involved, to be proactive, to make it a positive thing, not a negative connotation attached to it. So when something is an idea forms, it's like, well, did we loop in risk management to make sure we're covering all our angles here and there? So the start would be to enforce it, or not enforce it, but drive the element of risk management is a good thing.
All right. Ian, you want to take a look at that?
Yeah, take a step back. Before I got to Kent, they went through an exercise of trying to elevate the position. For 25, 30 years, it was nothing but an insurance manager. And they wanted to actually have a risk management department, so they went ahead and doubled it. They made two of us. But as part of that process, they got all the execs together and spent a couple days bunkered down with trying to find things, and the metric we used was that could cost us $1 million in 30 days. Anything that could cost us $1 million in 30 days needed to be identified. And that's a metric from 10 years ago. We might not use it again if we did that today. And then as part of that, we started breaking out what can we insure and what can't we insure. And what we found out was 80% of those things we can't insure. So how do we set policies, procedures, who owns it? And again, as part of a 1 or 2 person department, very few things could truly be owned by risk management. So each department broke up, whether it be procurement, IT, it's certain business units, they would own it, and then we would look at reporting that back out to an executive level every quarter. So that's what we've done roughly for the last decade. We have some refreshes on we have a bubble chart that tracks it. We've refreshed that a couple times over, but that's the basics of how we structure risk management.
Sometimes I find you have these great enterprise type ideas, but how do you get that ownership of the people in the business? Because risk management is something that it sometimes feels like a tomorrow type problem. That's not the day on the calendar. And so how do you get them to own it in the moment so that it bubbles up into your entire organization and you're managing risk holistically or at an enterprise level?
Yeah, I mean, some of it's communication, some of it's education. But, we try to say that risk is everyone's job. I think it's a real simple little saying that I'm sure millions of companies use, but we do try to push that. And again, back to the quarterly report outs with, we have Risk Management Executive Committee. It's something like 7 of the top 10 people in our company get together quarterly and look at all these things as well as emerging risk. But knowing that these things are coming up there helps get a little better buy-in from everyone at the company, all 2,000 employees.
It sounds effective. Derek, what's it look like at GreenHeck?
Yeah, so I'll share a little bit about where we've kind of been and then wrap up of what it looks like and where it's evolving to. About 5 years ago, there were roughly 2.5 people owning safety and risk management in our company. Like's already been discussed. Obviously, there were more people involved, but they were the owners. They were the drivers of the behaviors. That's evolved now to around 10 or 11 safety and health risk management professionals. But however, the organization, as it continues to grow, recognizes that when you have these safety teams in manufacturing facilities and these highly competitive business units, and that's how GreenHeck is structured, we have a lot of different business units. People want to win, right? At least I would think most of us in here would like to win at whatever you fill in the blank on, whether it's a sporting event, whether it's being successful in your home life, whether it's at work. People want to win. So what we've began to do is help really give knowledge, and with knowledge is power. I think that's a Spider-Man quote, something like that. I have kids. So ultimately give people the knowledge to be able to see what's happening, where you've been, very basic, and help them see where we can go going forward with reducing risk, reducing cost. And it really does begin to get into more of like a total cost of risk or an enterprise cost of risk model. Painting that picture with your leadership, as I think, Ian was beginning to talk about, and really giving them a pathway forward to see how we can impact the bottom line. And when you think about, we talked about workers' compensation, I think all of us could talk about that quite a while. I didn't take all the bait. I was gonna jump right into what we were talking about there, but that could take us a while. But to be able to reduce your workers' compensation costs, you're also impacting people's lives if they're not getting hurt, right? So there's so much to growing an organization's risk management model. And I'm excited that as an organization, GreenHeck is evolving to putting subject matter expertise, degreed health and safety professionals, risk management professionals, deeply embedded into the business units. So our company's in the process right now of doubling down on what we've been investing. So that's really exciting for me. It's been something that's been in the work for years, and we're getting ready to launch that. So afterwards today, any of you college students that are looking for a job should talk to me.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take the bait, though, real quick on the work comp one real quick, just because, so I mentioned medical field, great field, everything, but also attorneys. We talked about, if you go travel outside of Iowa, bigger communities, you start seeing billboards. A lot of those billboards, what do they say? You've been injured, I can get you top dollar. Yeah. That is another problem. It's a huge problem, not just for insurance industries, but employers. So we kind of ask ourselves, why did they go out of business? There's that reason there. So I think it goes back to the integrity of what you go in to do what the field you go in. You really, now there are stances where sure, this deemed an attorney and, go that route. But when you're willingly promoting that, hey, go get in an accident at work and we will get you top dollar for it, that's not really the solution.
All right, thank you.
That's scary.
I was going to give just a side about what Derek said, and I think this idea, and it kind of relates to what Ian said as well, just pushing the idea of risk management down to every single person. I've heard people talk about how can I own the 10-foot circle around every single person so that they own the risk, whether it's to them or they see something on the floor within 10 feet. They're empowered to pick up the grape on the floor in your world, different things in your world. Certainly, Derek, report the spill if they can't clean it up immediately. But having worked with GreenHEC and Derek over the last year, just this understanding of pushing this idea of risk management down into, for example, a manufacturing engineer designing a new work cell. The idea of there's going to be a person interfacing with that machine, and how can we design it for the person-machine interface from the start to minimize the ultimate risk of fatigue, leading to pain, leading to work comp injuries, leading to the lack of medical. So if we can just address a lot of these things at their root cause and where we can have the most upstream impact is really where risk management starts. So I love that you're doing things like that, and certainly smart businesses I see doing that quite a bit.
Chris, I'm going to say one more thing really quick. I think we're doing good on time. So
Yeah.
Ultimately, some of this is very basic. Don't kid yourself to think that it has to be the next new shiny toy or tool, whatever adjective you want to use. We, as a company, are constantly innovating. One of our founders basically has a position of innovator parish. And therefore, we're retooling our manufacturing environments for getting that competitive edge to deliver the product to our customers faster, better, higher quality all the time. Well, with that, that means that we have a tremendous responsibility when we're literally taking a piece of equipment on the manufacturing shop floor and turning it 90 degrees. To just be more efficient. That's a daily occurrence around the 30-some manufacturing facilities that we have. With that, has opportunities to do risk assessments in the moment, ahead of time, before that piece of equipment's being changed. What I'm trying to get at is, as an organization, don't lose sight of the real basics. We do significant amount of risk assessment work on our production lines before the movement even takes place in the design phase, and we're able to really tackle things that are impacting our largest loss as soft tissue injuries, manual material handling, our aging workforce. I know we've talked a little bit about that, but keeping it to the basics of doing just solid risk assessments for all you students, you're learning that right now. Don't lose sight of that. That's a critical part of reducing risk in a manufacturing setting.
I'm going to add a brief short story. I was speaking at a conference one time, and I was right before lunch. And in the lunch line, two ladies were in front of me, not knowing I was right behind them. And they said, "What did you think of that session we just came out of?" And all of them said, "Those were a lot of really basic ideas." And the lady next to her said, "But are you doing any of them?" And she goes, "No." And if we just did those things, we'd probably be a little bit better off. I'm a very simple person. My philosophy has been that just do a lot of the really basic things extraordinarily well, and you find yourself on the high side of what businesses are doing. So Derek, everything you're saying is true. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. Just execute on the fundamentals, good communication, good risk assessment, good risk control, and you kind of come out on the other side a winner. So wonderful. All right, Derek, you mentioned something in the last comment.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw this one back to you. And 30 manufacturing facilities, and you lead risk management for this organization, and yet you're at none of those facilities today. What unique challenges, and you all have this same exposure where you're geographically widespread, you can't be everywhere at once. How do you create this idea of a cultural focus on risk management when you can't be there all the time? So Derek, 30 locations, how do you make it work?
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately, it sounds a little cliche, but safety and risk management needs to be owned from the bottom up as well as the top down in our company. And I think that's an always moving target when you're hiring new people. The importance of skill building from the start, getting them high quality training. People today don't learn by sitting in front of a PowerPoint for hours. So figuring out what type of training and skill building that individual or that population needs is really some of the basics that is critical. We don't have myself, like you said, or somebody like myself in every one of our plants. So our safety teams have responsibilities to look out for each other. But if they don't know what they're looking for, that becomes pretty difficult. So one of the biggest things that I feel like is an advantage, and we'll probably talk about this in just a little bit, is really helping everyone in your company identify hazards. It's so basic, but really having a really solid hazard identification program can be a big differentiator because you're reducing those risks, those incidents, those injuries from happening before they even occur, and then communicating effectively across the organization. So one example I would say to answer your question to end on is on a monthly basis, we look at our most severe hazards and injuries and incidents, and we require each one of those plant managers to report out on those. That's across the entire company. Every leader in every business unit and each plant manager has to have the responsibility of reporting out on the most serious incident or injury that occurred. They are expected to share what happened, why did it happen, and what are you doing to solve for it never happening again. Very basic. That level of ownership is able to share how we have incidents and injuries in places where they never were sharing before. And that level of basic communication has been just a very impactful effort in our risk mitigation process, and that's only about a year old. So if you're not doing that today in your business or your place of business, steal it, take it. It's very basic, and it really just takes us back to some of the basic blocking and tackling, and that's how we're able to impact me not being at every facility.
All right. You're there in spirit, if not in person. All right, Ian, how do you handle that geographic spread of risk? And
Yeah, our feed division is a great example of that because they have, I think, 14 feed plants and another 17 stores out east. And we have one safety person dedicated to that. Now, she's built safety teams at each location, but given they're anywhere from 9 to 70 people, they don't all need a dedicated safety person there. So, you know, some of what she has done in her time, one, she replaced someone who never got 10 feet from his desk. So she is out there about 48 weeks a year. She's on the road, seeing all of them, touching them, knowing them. And I can give two examples, kind of back to a question ago. I would say that division has dropped its work comp cost $200,000 a year for 5 years in a row. And it comes down to two things. One, we put bagging lines in. We're not hand bagging things anymore. That should make sense to everyone who's been involved with repetitive injury claims. And the other one is she holds them accountable. To Derek's point there, every plant manager has to tell her where every work comp claim is at all times, and why is that employee not back at work. And you know, it goes right to what Ava said about the billboards and the commercials, and you know, that people sit at home and watch or drive by. If we can get our people back to work, it's not a punishment to come back to work. It's making sure we're caring for you, that you're progressing, you're doing better. And as part of that, they feel better, right? And again, just by doing that simple thing, I would say that has equated to $100,000 in savings on work comp a year by our safety plant manager holding all the plant managers accountable on it's not monthly, it's a daily basis. She is calling around and emailing to make sure to know where everyone who has a work comp claim is and how they're doing.
Eva, I think I drive by on my way to and from work probably 5 or more unique Hy-Vee Inc. locations. What's the physical footprint of your organization? Because I think it's even bigger than these two guys obviously combined.
I believe we're sitting somewhere at around 500. So what I did, I took I took this role over at I was at Hy-Vee in December of just last year. And coming from the insurance industry, it was a complete different industry, complete different animal for me, but the risk is still there. So, you know, transferable. And I had to take a different approach to it because I went from something that had me out there in the field to be able to have eyes on the risk, right? To see what's going on. So I identified right away as like, well, I need to befriend people who are on the floor. That's how I'm going to be on the floor. That's how I'm going to be at every store, every location. So that's what I did. We have a ton of, HR supervisors. We have plenty of people supervising our stores. So just, bond with them. And in our Hy-Vee construction group, we are constantly updating our stores, make sure they're up to date. They see something that's out of code. They see something that's potentially an OSHA violation. Picture it, send it to me. So you got to find a way to get your job done, especially when you have that much footprint and there's no way, there's no 500 of me. There's not. And taking little wins. So the way we're set up is like for our stores, they have the regional presidents that own the regions where our stores are located. And below that, we have our store directors who either own one or more directors, and then the changes follows a manager and so on for each store. So the way I approach it is if I identify an issue somewhere, we'll bring it together and we have a conversation with, I let the director know I felt, these concerns were brought to my attention. What are you going to do? I don't give them an option. Tell me how, can you fix it? It's like, tell me how you're going to fix this. So, and they don't come back to me with something, then I will escalate it and show this is potentially going to give us this much of a loss. Can you have your director tell me how they're going to fix it? Otherwise, are they really ready to come back and tell leadership, this is why we cost you this much money? So there's just, you gotta have a way, I had to change my scope of how we're a cash flows company, so how, gotta take it in that angle, just gotta make sure you have transferable skills to speak their language and make sure they know that safety is not an option, right? It's like people staying safe is just not an option. An injury shouldn't be optional. It's okay if you get injured today, we'll check on you tomorrow. That's not how it works. So it's accountability. And with that, you just befriend people.
I like that. Have I educate a lot of new people coming into this industry? I was a young one too. We're going to get to that question here in a second about advice we'd all give ourselves and maybe years ago and maybe students. But risk management, I always like to say, is still a 5 sense type of activity. We have to see it with our eyes. We have to smell the environment in many cases. Derek, you understand that, being an industrial hygienist by trade. But we have to touch it, we have to feel these things in order to be most effective. It can't be done from behind a desk. You will never lead risk management from behind a desk. It doesn't matter how much technology is sitting on that desk. You have to be out meeting with the people, being that helpful smile at Hy-Vee and just, had to throw it in there, Eva, you knew that.
It's okay.
But yeah, you have to, that's how this all works. We started with people, but it starts and ends with people.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that when they bring it to me and they say, I just didn't know you wanted to know this. He's like, no, that's perfect, bring it to me. So it's just that instinct of saying, am I tattletelling or am I being safe? It's like, well, no, we're privately owned. It's like you own the company. Don't you want it to be around for another 95 years? So let's take care of it.
Yeah, to build on that is destigmatizing saying things, right? Our 2 biggest locations, they have a great culture of reporting incidents. And an incident is a near miss. And their scorecards, their monthly scorecards include them to the point that if you don't put one down, we know you're lying, right? They're big manufacturing facilities. You probably had a near miss in your area. If you didn't, let's talk more about this, right? And getting to that point is huge because you can stop all those problems before they start. So making it a welcoming environment to be able to share those type of things instead of, having the type of environment where people run a forklift into a pole and run away and hide in the break room and hope you don't find out, right? I think we've all probably been in those facilities as well. Those don't get better on their own.
And for me, it's like what's difficult too is that it's retail, it's sales. We need people. And what the stores need to attract people. How do they attract people? They come up with interesting ideas, And so, at least for now, a majority of them are starting to get into the habit of like, let me just make sure with risk management that I'm covering my bases. It's like, we're gonna have a petting zoo. It's like, yeah, okay. But what do you have in place? Yep. So I'm not necessarily saying no, right? Because it's like, the way I've approached it too is like, well, even when I was in insurance, it's like, well, is it gonna kill someone? Realistically speaking, is it gonna kill someone or is it gonna cause, it's like, okay, then start breaking the risk down. Okay, if it may kill someone, what do we do to avoid that, or injure someone? So we slowly, so you want a petting zoo, okay, what do you have in place to avoid, the contamination there? Or it's like, we're gonna have bounce houses, fantastic. Who's gonna watch to make sure it doesn't deflate or a child, those little things. So it's like, okay, make sure, here's the check and balances. So there is ways to mitigate the situation.
If I was listening to the radio one day, and whatever station I was listening to, there was a call-in segment that said, call us with the coolest thing your little community might be doing this weekend. And this caller was so excited that they were going to have their blindfolded golf cart backseat driver thing coming up. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this organization does not have a risk management. And if they do, the person did not authorize that. But yeah, we're getting towards the end of our time. And I know this question was one that we were all really looking forward to. We're looking out into the room and seeing students. For those that might be considering a career in risk management, what are some of the skills that you think that maybe ones that they would not think about? So maybe outside of the technical skills that they should get either through experience, through education, early on in their career to give themselves a head start. Derek, you want to start with that one?
Sure. I mean, we've talked a lot about the importance of engaging people, right? It is a people business. You can't manage risk and safety from behind a desk. You have to have a team of people that are engaging other people in whatever company you have. From my perspective, getting a degree in psychology or getting some higher education training and courses in psychology could be very advantageous in your career in risk management and safety. You have to understand how people tick, how they think, how they approach. Why. Understanding the why behind so many things with respect to risk management could be very advantageous from my perspective of having a psychology degree. That might sound really strange to 90% of you in this room, but I believe that if you can be able to interact with people in a better way, because oftentimes risk management and safety professionals are pocket protecting nerds that can't talk. I was one of those, but I've learned how important it is to be able to talk and engage with people. And I think I would say psychology, something around psychology.
It's a great one. Eva, your thoughts?
I have many, but I think for me, what's probably served me well, it's a combination of things, but don't be the smartest person in the room, but prove you're the smartest person in the room, right? And with skill sets, with actual actionable items or ways for people to come to you. Take those little wins, and I would have to mimic, understanding people, because something in their mind is not clicking, and so if you can get into their thought process to explain, and that helps makes everybody's job easier and get out of that technical. There's a saying sometimes, like, I don't know if most of you are familiar with like FM insurance, but they're engineers. And so people say like, they're engineers, you don't understand them. You just, you're an engineer. But it's like, if you could find someone that speaks that very technical language, but puts it in plain language, that's huge. So that's maybe work on that. That's a huge thing. How can you put it in the most simplest terms? You take something so technical. I laugh because I bumped into someone in the company recently that could take someone, and she laughs too, it's like she takes someone that needs to be a very, very critical conversation. It's like, this is what they're trying to say. It's like, yes, where is she? I need to go get her right now because she needs to deliver this message for me. So be that person, deliver it in simple terms.
I love that, Eva. Ian?
For me, I think something that I would say I got right in my career early on was a lot of insurance education. And not that has to be the only path for a risk manager, but my first company I worked for, they paid us for designations, so I got them all. I had like 7 of them in the first 4 years. And I went after that, and it became a bedrock of what I could bring to the companies I worked for. And I think when you see that in risk managers a lot of times, I know in visiting over the last couple of days with Eva of, her claims background and being in there and being able to understand people from that way, with Derek and being on doing EMT and fire work, like is there any better on the job training for safety than some of that type of stuff? Like they have these bedrock things in them, and insurance education is for me, that it helps me have the confidence to build from there on. Versus sometimes, and I think we've all probably met other risk managers that sometimes kind of fall into it as like, well, a new spot for you in the company, and not to say that they can't be good, but they don't have something rooting them in a big portion of driving the job. Something I wish I would have done sooner that I do now, and it kind of builds on Derek's psychology one, is volunteering. I sit on the RIMS, I'm the RIMS treasurer, I'm the church's treasurer. My wife's works on is the civic center board and like 2 other charities in town, and I've just finished my 5th straight year of coaching junior high football. Like, if you want to know about how to deal with people and deal with parents and deal with people who are passionate about that nonprofit, in your free time, I've learned so much in the last 5 years that I've started volunteering more and being in those spots in my quote unquote free time. I really think that has helped me progress in my job and be able to explain things to people. Because in some ways in risk management, if I don't get to say it again at some other point here, is explaining the why is huge. I think other groups up here have talked about AI, a lot of things about AI. AI can give you a lot of answers, but people don't really believe it in what you're saying when you just give them an answer of no. No, why? Why no? It helps so much more in getting their buy-in, which is what we ultimately want.
Can I share a quick story? Just make it a quick story. So I just want to show you the value in what you're doing here today to even consider a career in risk or just in whatever you're doing. And I haven't shared this story with many or any people, but at one point when I was back in my previous career, I went out and I visited a cattle feedlot farmer, one of the biggest cattle feedlots here in Iowa. And after I left that company and went to Hy-Vee, this farmer calls me back, and it was granted when I first went to visit him, female, don't look my age, and then from the city they think just another insurance company just coming to nickel and dime me. But no, we ended up bonding well, and then I thought he was going to make me rock the whole farm. And he eventually was like, let's get on the gator. It's like, perfect. So we made a good connection. And then, about a month into my new job, I get a call, and so I was out in the mall, so I was like, I don't know what this is. It's like, I took the call, and it's Dan Augustine of Augustine Farms. It's like calling me. It's like, they canceled me. After 40 years, they canceled me. 40 years of insurance, and they canceled me. What did I do? What do I do? My family's been insured with this company for 40 years. What do I do? And I was able to break down to him what action items he would take, get you lined up with the broker, and let's find you some coverage. And the good thing is he had time. He just recently renewed with Farm Bureau. And then I helped him through the process. And to me, I was just helping him. I had the knowledge. Why not spread it? And I think I was really busy the other day at work, just stuff going on, and I get a call, and I was like, okay, I'll take his call. It's Dan, because this time I saved his number, so now I know who it is. And then get a call, and he said, I just want to tell you thank you, because I have coverage now. I don't have to worry about my farm. And this is an account that's about $5 million worth in cattle alone, and then another $5 million in property. So the fact that he was dropped, that's nuts, because it's Iowa. And I have a huge thing for those people who just feed and clothe our nation, right? And then so, busy day or whatever, but getting that call from Dan just helped me, appreciate that. Cool, I chose the right place to be. That's rewarding.
We are up against the clock. I'll ask who has the one best question that we can entertain as far as this panel goes, so that we can let the next panel get up here. Oh, that's a lot of pressure I just put on the crowd. Yeah, Umakant, you want to go ahead and...
So, first of all, great chemistry, amazing job done after the lunch. We wanted this. My question is, all of you talked about people and processes and initiatives, great insights, very diverse industries, all you all work with. I wanted to understand from a technology perspective, how is it helping you? Because you can't really just scale people, right? Although you have processes in place, governance in place, is any not shiny tools, but technology is really meaningfully helping you in your jobs? Any examples that you could think of?
Excel. Excel. I mean, I wish, and then there goes to another thing. I wish I had taken some kind of coding class because that would make my life easier, but learn Excel. It's going to be your friend.
Any of your organizations using any, I guess, more sophisticated type technology, sensors? Derek, I know you're large into automation and
Yeah.
robotics. The robots don't ask for vacation time,
I
and
was-
they've
I
never
was
filed
gonna-
a comp claim. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Just
I was
briefly
going to
talk
go
about
there.
that.
Just really give me
Yeah.
10 seconds. I mean, ultimately, robots don't get hurt. They produce a product that's near perfect, especially if the coding's done well, and they can really help us meet our customers' demand more efficiently and fast. So it's not about replacing workers. The problem is, what did we start with? We have a lack of a skilled workforce. We've had to solve that, and we've essentially double, tripled down on investing in automation and technology. So technology for us is critical. Absolutely critical for us to be able to get our end product out to meet our customer demand.
Wonderful conversation. Thank you all for your participation, and we'll see you all at the next session.
Thank you.